Well, it looks like Arizona might be leaving the Conference of Champions, but I'm here to tell you that no matter whether or not they stay or go, the rivalry between them and Arizona State will stay alive. We're talking about it on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A special shout out to my everydayers that are here every day. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast, and stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Guys, before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to our friends over at Bird Dogs. If you haven't yet gone to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, order your stuff and get a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. Guys, they're the best. You got to try them out. All right. So it sounds like Arizona is on the way out of the Pac-12 conference, and it's stirring up a lot of conversation naturally when a Power 5 school is talking about going to a different conference, especially in the crisis that the Pac-12 is facing right now with the LA schools leaving. There is now big time rumors that Arizona and Colorado will be leaving the Pac-12 to join the Big 12. This was brought to the attention very recently over by the Swaim Show, who I'm not 100% familiar with the Swaim Show. I'm gathering that there's some kind of radio show is what I have, according to their Twitter page, is 36 years of a TV radio show. It doesn't show me where they're located, so I don't know if this is a local show. I don't know, or if this is more like Midwest talking about Big 12, which would make sense why they would have that information. But they do have information that it sounds like they are going to be hopping over into the Big 12. That's U of A and Arizona, in case you missed me saying that. And this is generating a lot of conversations about the Pac-12, but we don't care about that. We care about Arizona versus Arizona State. We care about the rivalry here. And this is naturally going to impact the rivalry. So Arizona has recently come out and said that they're not interested in leaving the Pac-12 conference. They're more interested in staying and, being a part of the conference that they've been a part of for ever. Like them and Arizona State came in together to create the Pac-10 when it was the Pac-8 back then. So they've been in this conference for 40 plus years. I want to say that's probably something I could have pulled up, but I was busy getting a lot of other notes that I think you guys will appreciate a little later in the podcast. But bottom line here, there's a lot going on, and the Pac-12 is still trying to get its media rights and television rights figured out. And this is obviously going to be causing some of these schools to panic a little bit. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about the four corner schools, including Colorado and Arizona, but also Arizona State and Utah leaving the Pac-12 to go to the Big 12. That was a conversation about all four of those schools leaving, which would lead to probably the demise of the Pac-12. Since then, Arizona State and Arizona both said they weren't interested in leaving. Colorado didn't say much. I believe Utah said they weren't interested. But now it looks like Colorado and Arizona are gone. So interesting that Arizona is backing out on that. I mean, from a financial standpoint, you have to understand it. I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, these guys got to take care of themselves, and they need to make sure that they're getting the best rights possible. The Big 12 has good television rights. Would make sense for them to leave. Their games are not broadcast at 7 o'clock at night on the West Coast, so Arizona would get a little more publicity that way. This is stuff I've talked about before. So check out previous podcasts. Also check out Locked On Pac-12. My best friend in the whole world, Spencer McLaughlin, talks about it constantly. If you want to be more educated than what I can possibly give you, check out Locked On Pac-12. It's also I can't point to it. There we go. It's down in the right-hand corner for those of you that are on YouTube. Check out Locked On Pac-12. Anyways, there's so much that's going on. And it looks like if this rumor is true, that U of A will be leaving the Pac-12 conference. And this would just throw the Pac-12 into disarray. But like I alluded to earlier, we're not here to talk about the Pac-12. We don't care about the Pac-12 at this point in time. We care about the Territorial Cup. We care about what happens to the Arizona versus Arizona State rivalry if the Wildcats do, in fact, leave the Conference of Champions. Well, not to worry, because I'm here to talk about that for you. But before we get that far, guys, I got to talk to you about bird dogs. Bird dogs make you look good. They stretch. They're like khaki shorts, but they're designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and the leg. It gives you a truly sculpted look, even for someone like me that doesn't work out. My legs look good in my bird dogs, and I'm comfortable too. I feel like I can wear these things everywhere, whether it's to a date, a golf course, or just a night out with my friends. They do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better. They fit better. They're better than regular shorts and are made of a stiff, restricting fabric. Bird dogs fix the issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks like that khaki that I was talking about, but it stretches so that you can get a slimmer fit without sacrificing movement. Bird dogs also use an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Guys, these things stay clean, they stay fresh, and you're comfortable. I promise you, I wear them all the time. I wear them to work. I wear them around the house. They're my favorite pair of shorts in the whole wide world that I have right now. And the best part is I got myself a free Yeti tumbler because I use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. And by promo code, I mean promo code. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege and enter promo code LockedOnCollege to get that free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. All right, guys, as always, thank you for tuning in. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like and subscribe. Remember that this podcast is free and available on all platforms. Let's get back into our conversation. I think you guys are really going to like this. The Territorial Cup series is truly special, and I don't think that it gets enough love as one of college football's best rivalries, one of college sports' best rivalries. And that's the beauty of this second segment. I've known quite a bit about the Territorial Cup series. It was really fun to go back and learn even more about it because there's so much history here. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Why are we talking about the history? Well, it's going to lead up to my third point that we'll get to at the end of the podcast. So hang with me if you are eager to see why I'm talking about the history. If not, sit back, close your eyes, and let me tell you a story about the history of the Pac-12, or not the Pac-12, the Territorial Cup rivalry between Arizona State, the good guys, and Arizona. This dates back all the way to 1899. Now, to put that in perspective, Arizona is not even a state yet. This is the territory of Arizona, guys. Arizona was not officially a state until 1912. This takes place 13 years before Arizona achieved statehood. And in that time, this was actually like a series that was between four different schools. You actually had it between University of Arizona, Arizona Normal, which was ASU, but we'll get to that. The Phoenix Union High School, which is still around, and Phoenix Indian School, which is no longer around. This was a four-team series. It basically comes down to whoever is able to win, a tournament style would be declared the winner of the Territorial Series. And the first ever series came down to Arizona Normal and the U of A. And Arizona Normal ends up winning that game 11-2. Not only they win, they won in Tucson. So foreign territory, they won this game. Now, full disclosure, this is obviously so early in the history of the programs that neither of them were were even equivalent to the kind of football programs they are now. And if you think that these programs aren't great now, I promise you back then, this was just a very different looking team. Hence the 11-2 final score, which is probably scoregami. It's probably not, but at the same time, I feel like that could possibly be scoregami. Now, between Arizona Normal and U of A, they play very sporadically over the next few years, and it really doesn't go anywhere significant until 1925. And once 1925 rolls around, this becomes an almost annual event for the teams. They had missed a couple of years here and there. It wasn't anything too significant, though, because this ends up, like I said, becoming a very storied rivalry between the two teams following 1925. This was a very back and forth series, too. You had what eventually became Arizona State dominate during the Frank Kush era. You had U of A start to dominate in the 80s and 90s. Since the turn of the century, Arizona State has dominated. Like, it's been a back and forth. And then in the beginning of the rivalry, U of A naturally dominated because they were a university and they were able to put together better athletic programs and whatnot compared to what Arizona Normal had access to. And that's an important story that we're coming up on right now. So next in the line here was when Arizona Normal had officially applied to become a state university. And my friends, this is where the rivalry was born, because at this point in time, this is where U of A started to show their colors. It was no longer a friendly game. This was now a politically charged game. And if you don't like politics the same way I don't like politics, I'm sure that you can understand the amount of hatred that was going on, whether you were in the political atmosphere or not, because you didn't have a choice. You were roped into this. U of A was blocking Arizona Normal from becoming a state university. And at this point in time, I believe they were Tempe Teacher School, I believe is what they were at that point in time. They were Arizona State College at this point in time. They were Tempe State Teachers School from 25 to 28. They had gone through quite a few name changes. At this point in time, though, they were Arizona State College. They were not a university. They were applying to become a state university. U of A wasn't happy. U of A was trying to block it. This is where it starts. This is where the hatred is born, because U of A thinks that they're not even the bigger brothers. They just think they're simply better than anything going on at Arizona State College. They play that bowl game, the Territorial Cup Bowl, in 1958, and Arizona, or what did we decide it was? Arizona State College beat the tires off of U of A 47-0. Now that is what sparks a rivalry. Not only did they win 47-0, but they ended up becoming a state university later that year. That's how you start off a rivalry, ladies and gentlemen. And there have been plenty of other great moments throughout the rivalry, but the other massive moment here that really emphasizes the hatred that they had between each other. In 1968, we had the Ultimatum Bowl. And if you're not familiar with this, buckle up. In 1968, the Sun Bowl Committee, that we jokingly call the Sun Devil Bowl, the Sun Bowl Committee was actually a very big bowl game back in the day. It wasn't this like hopscotch and play at the park and get a check for going to this game the way it is today. The Sun Bowl was a big deal, and they were trying to decide who was going to go to the bowl. Well, U of A head coach Daryl Mudra, I don't even know if I'm saying it right, and honestly, I don't know if I care that much. He stated that Arizona was not going to go to the Sun Bowl unless the committee chose them outright, regardless of what happened at the Territorial Cup. The Sun Bowl Committee sheepishly complied with Coach whatever, complied with his demands to send Arizona to the Sun Bowl no matter what. if you think that pissed off some ASU folks, you'd be correct, because they go into this game and once again beat the tires off of U of A 30-7. This game ends up becoming known as the Ultimatum Bowl. Good news, though. U of A, they did get to go to the Sun Bowl and promptly lose 34-10 to Auburn. Meanwhile, Arizona State was kind of left like, well, they need a bowl game. What do we do? Well, I guess we're going to create a bowl game for them. And they create a bowl game known as the Fiesta Bowl. And as pretty much everyone else knows, the Fiesta Bowl has stood the test of time, and it has become one of the college football playoff bowl games. Yeah, Fiesta Bowl is a big deal. And before that, it was a BCS bowl game. Fiesta Bowl has been a massive, massive deal. And it's all because U of A was so stubborn and they wanted to go to the Sun Bowl. So they created the Fiesta Bowl for Arizona State that Arizona State has dominated. I mean, this is absolutely the Arizona State Bowl. And Frank Kush killed it. And yeah, it's our bowl game. It is almost very literally our bowl game. And it's all because of U of A. It's all because of them trying to, well, successfully, I should say, using their momentum as a big time program to get to the Sun Bowl. Well, congratulations, you played yourself. The all-time series is currently in favor of Arizona with a 50-45-1 tie record. It's only a 5-game difference, and you got to remember this has been a very back and forth series. But U of A also controlled the series for quite a while because we weren't a state university and we weren't able to put together the programs that a state university was able to put together. So take that for what it is. 5-game difference is not that great, my friends. And ASU, meanwhile, since the turn of the century, since 2000, has owned the series 15-8. It included a 5-game winning stretch that we had very recently. And it included the infamous, if you're a U of A fan, and very famous if you're an ASU fan, 70-7 game. Why is that important, though? Let me fill you in. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Why was all that history so important for me to bring up? Why did I give you a history lesson in the Territorial Cup? I'll tell you why. The reason why is because with all of that in mind, you're not just getting rid of this game. It's not going anywhere. This was a series before they were even included in like a legitimate college conference. This was a series when they were in the WAC together. This became a staple of the Pac-12, the Pac-10, if you will. Sure, but it's more than the Pac-10. This dates back to before Arizona was a state, you guys. 13 years before Arizona was even a state in the United States of America. This was an established rivalry. This isn't going anywhere. This is here to stay. For those of you that are sitting there, well, how are they going to play? They're out of conference. This happens all the time. Florida and Florida State play every single year. They're not in the same conference. Florida's in the SEC. Florida State is in the ACC. They still play each other every single year. North Carolina and South Carolina, they play all the time. I don't know if it's every single year. I'd be willing to bet it is every single year, despite SEC versus ACC status. Iowa and Iowa State, they play each other. That's a Big 10 team versus a Big 12 team. This is not uncommon. This is not uncommon, you guys. This isn't a weird taboo subject about how do we keep an in-state rivalry going? How do we keep a rivalry between a North Carolina and a South Carolina going? It's just an out-of-conference game. That's all it is. That's all it is an out-of-conference game. Now, will this throw it into a bit of a loop? Yeah, absolutely, because you might have to change up your schedule a little bit. You're going to have to figure out how to make things work with the Pac-12 because you're still going to have 9 conference games, 3 out-of-conference games. Is this a game that gets shot up to the beginning of the year? Are you still able to manage it to be the end of the year, which other schools do? I don't see why you would have to do that. It's just going to be a little bit of tweaking. But quite frankly, it's worth it. It's worth it for these colleges, and it's worth it for the fans. This rivalry is not going anywhere. I promise you. I'll shave the beard. I'll shave my hair if Arizona State and Arizona is no longer going to be an annual rivalry. Will there be missed years? Probably, just to figure things out. Sure. Would I bet on it? I don't think so. I think that this is just something that these two schools are going to make work out. No matter if one of them's in the SEC and one of them is in the MACtion. It's not going anywhere. They're going to work it out, you guys. I promise you, the Territorial Cup will live on. Whether or not these teams stay in the Pac-12, whether or not one of them leaves the conference, whether or not both of them leave the conference, whether or not they go to a different conference together or two different conferences, it doesn't matter. This rivalry is never, ever leaving. I promise you. It's college football's longest standing Cup series. It is one of college football's best rivalries. It's got 1.5 million nicknames. It's got the history behind it. It's got the hatred that these schools have too much pride. Both of them, Arizona State and Arizona. Neither of these schools are going to be willing to let the Territorial Cup go. And for what it's worth, I'm just talking football. The Territorial Series encompasses 20 sports, guys. Football, basketball, baseball, softball, wrestling, swimming, tennis. I'm not sure about tennis, but swimming, wrestling, volleyball, like it's got everything, guys. Soccer. I think U of A has a hockey team. Hockey, like it's got everything. Track and field, shot put, javelin throw, video games, whatever it is, they've got it. So the Territorial Series isn't going anywhere. The Territorial Cup isn't going anywhere. The Duel in the Desert is not going anywhere. It's here to stay. Like it or love it. There's no hating it. If you hate the Territorial Series and you're either a U of A fan or an ASU fan, I don't trust you. I just don't. Bottom line, though, series isn't going anywhere. And I hope that you guys aren't going anywhere either. Let me know what you think about the series. Let me know what you think about U of A potentially leaving the conference. Do you think ASU should leave? Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrads36, the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. And remember, wherever you're getting your podcast, we're free and available. Hit like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so that you get an update whenever we post new content. I thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really hope that you got to appreciate this breakdown of the series the same way that I did. That's all that I have for you guys this week. I will see you guys next week. You keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils. Take care.